Welcome back to OpenLine as we continue our discussion on the DACA program. Of course, this is a very timely issue because this will be going before the United States Supreme Court this week as we wait and see what the justices decide as far as President Trump challenging this program, trying to eliminate it after President Obama started it. We will wait and see what happens. Of course, we have two guests here who have very strong opinions on this, are impacted by this directly. Molly Haynes, as well as Stephany Castro. We've heard a lot about the equal chance for education, the impact that you guys have had in the community, and your personal story as you guys kind of wait and see what happens next. I guess it's kind of difficult. You said you were hoping to get a resolution, but it's also tough to kind of wait and see how this plays out.
Yeah, definitely ready for a solution. So.
All right. Well, let's go back to the phones. We have Chris calling. Chris, you are live on OpenLine. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi, go ahead.
Yes, I had to, well, good evening, ladies. Stephany, Molly. I want to encourage you, Stephany, just keep doing the best you can and work as hard as you can. But I had two questions. One was, as far as DACA recipients, I know a large majority of them will be from South and Central America, but are there those that would be, let's say, someone who came legally and vanished, overstayed a visa or something like that, that would now be applying for DACA? And then two, what are the potential outcomes, positive and negative, for somebody who would be a DACA recipient, according to how the Supreme Court rules? Okay,
thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, so yeah, maybe we should clarify who would be eligible for DACA. Sure. I guess we should kind of go back to the root of all this.
The original criteria. So they had to have come before a certain age, no criminal background, enrolled in or pursuing a degree, a high school or postgraduate degree. And I can just speak for the 306 students that we've had. There's over 18 countries represented, North Korea, China, India, Germany, Canada, and some of them, yes, their families were here on work visas that were taken away, either through their jobs or the children aged out of the program and then they received DACA. So there's a number of different reasons and countries and places of people who lived here. One family was from the Caribbean, from St. Martin. And they came, their grandmother sponsored them, and so they were awaiting the grandmother to get her green card, and the grandmother passed away. So now they have to have another sponsor in the family, but that's how they found themselves in this undocumented state. So there's a lot of different reasons that and ways that people can find themselves undocumented without documentation. Not just simply one story is going to be representative of all 800,000 DACA recipients.
And again, it didn't matter what country they came from. That was one of his points. He was wondering if that, they would be eligible if they hit these other points that you mentioned.
Yep.
Okay.
And so then it's a 2-year renewable permit that they have to pay $459 for. Again, no path to citizenship. It's just a 2-year place of no deportation. So it's a 2-year protection that allows them to have the driver's license, the social security number, so they can work and attend school and receive those benefits. And
with Stephany being one of these examples, as you've told us a little bit about your family and how you fit into those guidelines.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I came here when I was 1, so I obviously reached the age limit, and as well as I was pursuing a career in college. And now that I have DACA, I've been able to receive my driver license and attend school. I still don't work, but I mean, you never know.
Mm-hmm. And then I want to go back to his second question, just talking about what this would mean for DACA recipients, depending on what the Supreme Court does, voting to keep it or not keep the program, what the impact would be.
Right. So, I mean, it's still unknown. Obviously, there's 1, 2, or 3 ways that this decision can go. They can decide that it was, in fact, unconstitutional and not legal for President Trump to rescind the program, or they can look at its initial inception by President Obama by executive order. And was that decision legal or not legal? So then once we've reached a decision, of course, Congress can still decide that they want to pick it back up. President Trump can decide how he stands on it. I think there's a lot of push for a larger immigration reform, and this would kind of fit under that umbrella, which, as the caller mentioned earlier, was brought up, last year several times, but there wasn't compromise being had on that by some of the other Congress members. So, there's a number of ways that it can go. It's still too far unknown at this time. But we are looking forward to and anticipating a decision by spring of 2020.
And you've talked about how when it really boils down to the people and the faces of this, how that would potentially impact them,
right?
If this would go away, and the success the program has had, what the impact would be if it went away.
I mean, if DACA's gone, we would see a number of nurses no longer being able to save lives. We would see teachers not being able to continue teaching young children. The average age now is closer to 28 or 29, I think. So it's people who have possibly already gone through school. We have several students that have young children of their own here in the U.S. So what would that mean for their parents of children who were born here? They've bought homes, they've started families, they're buying cars, starting businesses. So it would be very disruptive to a lot of communities, including ours right here in Nashville. And I think a lot of times our community members don't notice that, or we don't know. Steffany said earlier that this is the first time that she's shared her story, which is super brave of you, and I'm proud of you. But a lot of people were taught that they shouldn't be revealing their immigration status, so there's a lot of people who don't know. You have no idea who it could be affecting, and whose life it could be disrupting.
And you've talked about it's certainly emotional for you because of how this could impact your life directly. I mean, that has to be kind of scary, just to have to kind of sit back and wait and have that kind of out of your control. I understand it's tough to talk about, but you guys have lobbied, you've made your point, you're hoping that by spreading the message that you've just said all the way to Washington, that will in some way help sway the justice.
We're grateful to you all for letting Steffany share her story and putting just one of the 800,000 faces to this, and just know that she's just as Tennessean as you and I, and in fact more than me. I've only been here 6 years.
So she's been here longer than all of us, right?
Exactly. So, and we're grateful to her contributions here, and hope we can have a solution soon.
And so as we kind of wait on this, it'll be interesting to see when people that have gone up to Washington to watch this. I mean, it is an issue that, as you said, affects so many people here. I think it is something people are watching closely, and there is a lot of interest in this just overall.
Right, and I think especially, people can kind of decide to look at this based on what their party might encourage them to feel, but we would encourage you all just to think about it from an ethical standpoint. Someone mentioned earlier that the child shouldn't be at fault of the parents' decisions, and I think that makes a lot of sense. So let's just think about this with a human heart, and think about the people that it's affecting when we go into having these conversations with people from other sides.
Yeah, and that's certainly been the message you guys have spread. We've heard that from some of the callers, but we know that this is an issue that people have strong feelings on, so we'll have to see. I don't know that this certainly won't end the debate, I guess we can say that, but it would at least give us some resolution as far as DACA that, as you said, affects so many individuals right here in our community. Well, we are going to take another short break, and we will be right back with more Open Line right after this. Stay with us.